You ever think that if you're working with the law enforcement, you should be able to get away with anything? Well, that's what Scott Lee Kimball decided. And we're going to go over that.
Ladies and gentlemen of all ages, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Angry Meat Production. We appreciate you coming in and letting us be a part of your lives week in and week out. We hope to do our best to present you with something that your eardrums delight in. Whether you're looking at us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on Spotify, Google, or Anchor, or any of the other podcast services that we are currently on or trying to get on. We thank you. And if you don't mind, at the end of every episode, stop by, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If it asks for 5 stars, we'll take 5 stars, even if you don't like us. 5 stars are what it's all about. With that being said, we hope you enjoy our attempt to make our advocation our vocation. Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin. We here at Angry Me Production want to thank our sponsor, Mobile Notary Mindy. She's certified with the National Notary Association. She's also bonded and E&O insured. She offers a wide range of services including wills, powers of attorney, medical documents, healthcare proxies, living wills, certification of trust, assignment of personal property, HIPAA waivers, advanced healthcare directives, and 99 verification. You can find her on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Mobile Notary Mindy. You can also visit her webpage at TexasMobileNotaryMindy.com. That's TX, MobileNotaryMindy.com. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Yes, today we're going to go over Scott Lee Kimball. Let's go ahead and get into it. It's a kind of a weird one. It has a lot of variety into it. Anyways, let's begin. Kimball was born in Boulder, Colorado in 1966. When he was 10, his mother, Barb, came out as a lesbian, leading to his parents' divorce. His father, Virgil, left the state and remarried. Kimball was strongly affected by the divorce. In his early adolescence, he had his first encounter with law enforcement when the police were called to his house after he fired a gun out of the window at a neighboring house. Kimball and his younger brother, Brett, took refuge at his grandmother's mobile home. The neighbor of hers, Theodore Payton, took advantage of the situation, began sexually abusing both of them at a cabin he owned in Netherland, Colorado. Payton's sexual abuse progressed from having Kimball touch himself and photograph the boy naked to tying Kimball up and raping him, and recording this on film. Payton threatened to kill his father, who lived in Montana, if he ever told anyone. Payton continued being abused. When Kimball returned to Boulder on weekends, after he moved to Hamilton, Montana, he to attend high school and lived with his father and brother. The abuse ended when Kimball was 23 and shot himself in the head in a suicide tent. The bullet grazed off his skull, but the wound, which left a visible scar on his forehead, was severe enough that he was in critical condition for several days. A cousin, Ed Colt, remarked that Kimball came out of the experience changed as if he had lost his conscience. Afterwards, Kimball, several other boys whom Payton had molested reported him to Boulder police. Payton was arrested, convicted of several counts of sexually abusing a child and imprisonment. Kimball continued to feel a deep sense of shame, less of a man for it, according to a former girlfriend. Kimball wrote a letter to the judge begging him to sentence Peyton to additional prison time, stating, he has denied me my right to a normal, healthy, innocent childhood. He has damaged my life forever. When asked about the abuse it affected on Kimball's in 2010, Peyton uh, said only, that was a long time ago. So Peyton was creating a monster. Kimball had already turned to nonviolent crime, usually fraud, at the age of 22. He was convicted of passing bad checks, his first felony in Montana. Back in Colorado, he burglarized houses. Montana, he was also charged for running a legal hunting outfit business. A brief first marriage failed in 1993. He married uh, Larzana. Stephanie Hawking, please help me with this one. Let's get in here. Larissa Henze, and moved with her to Spokane, Washington. And she moved to Spokane, Washington, where he had two sons before divorcing in 1997. She recalled that process servers were frequently visited their house. I guess child support, not child support. Let's just go in. Process servers is a legal system. Service of processing is the prosecutor by which a party to a lawsuit gave an appropriate notice of intentional illegal actions to another party, court, or administrative body in an effort to excuse judicial over the person so as to force that person respond to proceedings. So I guess it's all the stuff that he was doing, love bag checks and whatnot. As Kimball was running scams in logging industry, and those who partnered with him, and were cheated would often use legal means to recover their money. He was always had an excuse, hence recalled. It was never his fault among those Kimball victimized in his schemes were her dentist and the bishop of her church. That's pretty bad. Their relationship continued for another 2 years after the divorce, ending when Hertz accused him of rape. Kimball told police she was trying to secure full custody of their son, and after she failed a lie detector test, no charges were filed. Prosecutors also saw the case as complicated since the couple had continued to have consensual sex after the incident. Following 2000, Kimball's violation of probation for an earlier fraud conviction revoked his early suspension sentence and put him back into prison in Montana. A year later, his obscure but halfway house and stolen a truck. Basically, he absconded from a halfway house, basically to get away from arrest, and stolen a truck along with till from his employer, a gas station where he was working at a work release. Henson reported that shortly after he returned to Spokane, where he broke into her house, kidnapped her, and raped her again. She filed charges, and a arrest warrant was issued. Kimber fled after that to Alaska, where he posed as his brother, got engaged to another woman, and resumed his career in check fraud and writing $25,000 in fraud checks. He was then arrested and convicted in federal prison. He was convinced FBI agents that he would work for them as an informant, and he would never and he was never brought to trials on the Spokane charges. The FBI denied this resulted. The FBI denies this resulted from an intervention on its part. The agent who handled Kimball in Alaska said he never knew about those charges. Kimball told the FBI that fellow inmate Aaron Flowers was planning to have the federal judge and prosecutor in his case, along with a witness who had testified in the fraud case against him, killed. With his help and that of an undercover agent, the Bureau recorded Flowers and his girlfriend making the arrangement with persons whom they believed to be the killers. They were arrested on several felony charges on March 2002. Drinking break. Kimball told the FBI that he could help them with more cases. Another felon inmate he said had bolstered of having killed another federal prosecutor, Thomas Wells, in his Seattle area home the year before. For his safety, Kimball was transferred to a low security Inglewood Federal Prison in Littleton, Colorado, outside Denver. He discreetly let it be known that he had informed information about planned crimes that the FBI might want to know about. And soon the Bureau liaison to the prison, Carl Schaefer, came to visit him. Kimball told Schaefer that fellow convict Steve Ensign, who had been befriended, was allegedly plotting to kill witnesses, especially to testify in a important trial about Ensign's extradition ring. Sorry, that's one word I can't really say. Distribution. Stephen Hawking, help me with this one word that I can't say, and I don't know why I stopped being able to say it.
Distribution.
There we go. Schaefer had rescinded being assigned to England after earlier work on organized crime investigation. He considered the work more suited to a less experienced agent. In Kimball, he saw the possibility for breaking the kind of case that could put him back on the career path that he had hoped for. He viewed Kimball as a confidant man who had answered for everything, who had an answer for everything, was not a violent man and could still earn the trust of a jury as a witness. Due to Kimball's earlier service as an informant, there was still nothing in his file about the rape and kidnapping charges. In March 2003, shortly after Jennifer Marcom, the first of 4 people Kimball later admitted killing, disappeared, he pleaded guilty in a Colorado federal court in Alaska of fraud charges. Prosecution and defense agreed that the records would be sealed to protect Kimball's work as an informant, an agreement signed off by John Shutter, the U.S. Attorney for Colorado. The following day, the FBI flew him to Seattle for monitoring conversation with the man he had identified as Schaefer's as Wells' killers. But the conversation yielded no useful information on the case, as Kimball did not say what the FBI wanted him to, and it seemed as if the man barely knew him. Afterwards, Kimball failed a lie detector test in which he was asked if the man he confessed the Wells killing to him. The FBI prosecutors later told Schaefer that they were putting the Ennis case on hold because of the failed lie detector test. One Seattle agent sent Shalford an email about Kimball's poor performance and cast doubt on his credibility. Schaefer angrily told the agent he should have shared his concerns in a phone call rather than an email, since anything written about Kimball by the FBI could be turned over to a criminal defense lawyer as part of discovery of such an email by another FBI undermine Kimball as a witness. Basically, don't send the email because it could be processed in a court if they want to show that Kimball was not an standing citizen. When Schaffer drove Kimball to the airport the following month for a flight to Alaska to consult with prosecutors on the Flowers case. He noticed Kimball seemed less relaxed than usual, as if he was worried that Schaefer knew something he was not telling Kimball about. When Schaefer checked his online file at the FBI office afterwards, he saw a new warrant for Spokane that did not specify a charge. Angered at not just Kimball, but the prosecutors in this case and the Seattle agents who had doubted Kimball's reliability, Schaefer decided to end Kimball's service as an informant. Schaefer had Denver police arrest Kimball upon his return from Alaska. The Spokane charge turned out to be a minor violation of his probation. Their release to his reporting of his address. Just after Schaefer told him he would no longer be an informant, Kimball told him he had information on Jennifer Marcom's disappearance, which he later explained was evidence that Ender's partner had killed Marcom, and told him of it in detail. The DEA investigator on the case was not sure Kimball was telling the truth, but he passed a lie detector test this time. At Kimball's sentencing in December, the prosecutors told the judge that he might yet be able to help the Bureau solve that case, and asked if the lightest sentence possible. Kimball was fined $5,000 in order to pay almost $8,300 in restitution to Wells Fargo Bank in Covan, Alaska. Judge Marquard Cringer sentenced him to 3 months in prison, which he was more than adequate for the time Kimball was served. He was also put on probation for 3 years, ending his former service as a FBI informant, although he could still work with the Bureau voluntarily. Gregor, largely bound by the terms of his plea agreement and the federal sentencing guidelines, needless to say, expressed some reservations. She contrasts that Kimball's reticence about his own finance, particularly in regards to receiving payments from the FBI for his services, with his willingness to inform on others. Krager criticized that attitude as duplicitous and paraphrasing it as, "I'm happy to turn other people in, but I don't want to be held fully accountable for my own behavior," which is reasonable, since there was no precedence allowing her to refuse the downward departure from the guidelines in the case. Where the defendant had cooperated with the government, she granted it, reducing his sentence as 2 times served. Following his 2002 release on a $10,000 bond, Kimball moved in with his mother, Barb, and her partner near Denver, Colorado. He began to make money by flipping houses and set an organic beef distribution company with $65,000 from his mother and brother. This enterprise required him to frequently travel around the state to ranches and cattle auctions in order to buy product. His ex-wife had also returned to Colorado. She still feared him, but she let him see his sons. The FBI also paid him the first installment in a total of $50,000 and gave him a cell phone with an earpiece for recording. Over the next 2 years, Kimball killed at least 4 people that he has confessed to. Three of them occurred while he was officially a FBI informant. 2 of them were the girlfriends of Inglewood inmates who had befriended after his release. Another was his stepdaughter. The sole male victim was his uncle. He allegedly attempted to kill his son, but no charges were filed in the incidents due to an argument over jurisdiction. The body of his second victim, Jennifer Marcom, was not then found. Now, there's also allegations of an attempted murder of Kimball. The marriage was under considerable strain. Justine, uh, in the first year, Kimball was absent even more than he had been before the wedding. When he was at home now, earlier in January 2003, Lori McLeod had met Kimball at a poker table in a logged casino in Black Hawk, Colorado, west of Denver. She had been impressed by how he wheeled his mother, suffering from multiple sclerosis, up to the table and found him likable. When they got to know each other better after McLeod slipped him her phone number, he told her he was an FBI agent and showed her a fake badge and a laptop with a uh, seal bureau seal on it. On Valentine's Day of that year, they dated for the first time just before Jennifer McComb disappeared. Marcom McLeod accepted Kimball's excuse that he could not tell her where he was going sometimes because of the secrecy requirements of his work with the FBI. The most he said he could tell her was that he was involved in possible murders of a young woman named Jennifer. She was primarily herself concerned about her 19-year-old daughter, Casey, from one of her two previous marriages, who had run away from home on several occasions. He had been charged with credit card fraud, and she had been charged with credit card fraud and was recovering from methamphetamine addiction. At the time, her mother met Kimball. Casey's life seemed to be improving. She had been clean, again living with Lori and making new friends, and had taken part of a job at Subway nearby. Kimball explained his June 2003 arrest to a shaken McLeod as a ruse to bring up his FBI cover. Since he had been released relatively quickly without an apparent charges, she believed him. In August, he went on with what he told Lori was a hunting trip. When Kimball was away, Cassie disappeared. After she missed one of her shifts at Subway, Lori was unable to reach her by her cell phone. The police decided to take a missing persons report, and according to Lori, she said Casey was an adult who could disappear if she wanted to, as long as she did not break the law. When Kimball returned a few days later afterwards, he echoed the argument with counseling Lori, telling her Casey would eventually come back home. He also promised her that he would see what he could do with his FBI connections and could give them into finding Casey. There was some signs that Kimball was right about Casey. He found one of her gold necklaces dangling from a doorknob one day. A makeup kit had also disappeared from her room. Didn't that suggest that Casey had been around the house? Kimball said. The owner of the property he and Lori rented in Adams County that summer also told Lori that Casey and her boyfriend had been seen drive by. Lori continued search for Casey herself. She found her daughter's boyfriend, who told her that he had last seen Casey being picked up by Kimball for work from the hotel he had been staying at, which he paid for. The night she missed her shift, McLeod began to wonder if Kimball knew where Casey was and possibly be in touch with her. Shortly after, Kimball proposed that he and McLaren get married. It would help her move from Casey's disappearance and also might help them find her. After they exchanged vows in a drive-through wedding chapel in Vegas, Kimball and McLeod returned to Denver area, where Kimball uh, mother helped to take out a life insurance policy. McLeod named Kendall as the sole benefactor. In September, the two went on a honeymoon camping trip to Kremling, Colorado. Is that Kremling? Let Stephanie Hawking see what she says.
Kremling,
Yeah.
Colorado.
Kremling, Colorado area. Not far from where Casey's remains would be found several years later. Now, the marriage was under considerable strain. Its first year, Kimball was absent even more than he had been before the wedding. And when he was at home, he was sometimes emotionally abusive. A particular target was her son, Justin, who had been who had a very gentle personality. Kimball considered this feminine and would also call him a sissy boy, and highlights of his disapproval. One evening in July 2004, Kimball and the boys were out in the backyard digging holes. Cody, the younger one, ran in to tell McLeod to call 911 as Justin had been hurt, possibly a broken leg. Kimball came in carrying his son in his arms and said something about his back. McLeod, by then on the phone, told the dispatcher that it was possible injured there, but before she could complete the call, Kimball put Justin in his car and drove away. So she told the dispatcher not to send an ambulance, that she presumed that her husband was taking Justin to a nearby hospital. When Lori McLeod and Cody reached the hospital, Justin was on a gurney, suffering convulsions and nausea with blood all around him. The nurse said that the fall had caused a serious injury, and McLeod said that he had been injured at her home. He was not aware that he had fallen in any way possible. The nurse explained that when he was brought in, his father said the boy had fallen out of the car. Kimball came in and said that Justin had been hit in the head with a metal grate. On the way there, Kimball said Justin meant to open the car window, but opened up the door instead and fell out of the car going 60 miles per hour. Kimball did not believe Justin would survive. When she heard about this incident, Barb Campbell went back to her insurance offices and changed the benefactoring of the life insurance policies on Justin from Scott to herself. She later told one of her employees that she did so because she feared Scott had attempted to kill his son for the life insurance money. He had, Bart said, asking weeks earlier who was the benefactor was. After 2 weeks of an induced coma, Justin survived. His first words were, once he could speak again, was, "Why did Dad do this to me?" He recalled his father dropping the gate on him and pushing him from the car. His neurosurgeon treated him, saying it was possible the injuries had affected his memory. Law enforcement investigation, but since the two injuries had occurred in different jurisdictions, it was unclear which agency would take the lead, and no charges were filed to conservative justice to the concern. Justin's mother was concerned. That's wow. That's just. That is so weird that he got away with that one because of the jurisdiction. Now, by the end of 2005, Kimball's marriage to McLeod was disoriented. He was away from home more often, showed less interest in finding Casey, and according to her, managed to keep making me feel like I was not cutting the mustard, so to speak. She suspected that he was having an affair with a woman in California, where he was travels were increasingly taking him. During that summer, Kimball had twice called the police, allegedly domestic violence, and leading her to her arrest, both times. McLeod claimed that both incidents were fabrications so that Kimball could move waitress he had been having a relationship to into their home. By the fall, he had moved out and rented a small house in Lafayette. He persuaded his girlfriend by buying him persuaded his girlfriend to buying him a gun, as he was legally prohibited from doing so because he was a convicted felon, on the grounds that he would teach her how to hunt with the rifle. But once she gave him the gun, she never saw it again. In January 2006, an optometrist in Lafayette, concerned that his bank statement had not arrived when the bank. When he went to the bank to find the status of his business money marketing account. There, he had learned that he had been much more activity on its recent than he had been aware of. In the process of 3 weeks, $80,000 had been deposited in it, and $55,000 were written in checks, most of them to Kimball's Beef Company, which shared a nearby office with his mother's insurance agency. Security cameras footage from the bank showed Kimball making the deposits. A local police investigation, but did not talk to him as he has left the state. Barb Kimball employees told Detective Gary Thatcher that had seen some of the optimist's mail on Kimball's desk. A search of his office suggested that he stole the optometrician's statement from a poorly secured closet where the optometrician kept his bank records. That's kind of weird. I guess they were interconnecting. Sheets of participants' signatures and fake subpoenas to Lori McLeod were in the garbage. Kimball had also used an altered version of his mother's notary stamp to forge lien releases on a car he had several damages on in an incident a month before at Kimball's home, which he had now sublet, which basically means a lease and a agreement calling for the user to pay the owner for a use of an asset. Police found a trailer that he collected a $10,000 insurance payment on after having reported it stolen. So basically, that's fraud because no one stole his trailer, and he got $10,000 for it. Thatcher went to talk to Lori McLeod, who seemed nervous but agreed to come to the police station for an interview. From there, she called her husband with the speakerphone on so Thatcher could listen, claiming she was at home in the bathroom. She also lied to Kimball about the police. Kimball asked her to get some of his work mail, and the call ended. After the conversation, Thatcher asked, what Kimball did for a living. McLeod told her her estranged husband worked for the FBI. The first time the detective heard about that, recounting the badge he had shown her, the times he had seen other FBI giving him envelopes stuffed with cash. That suspected Kimball might be impersonating an agent, part of his scams. McLeod also told Thatcher about Kay's disappearance and her growing suspicion that Kimball was responsible. Further investigations after an interview led Thatcher to talk to detectives in Louisville, near Boulder, about the incidents with Justin. In March, he called the FBI to alert them about Kimball's possibly impersonation. He was connected to Schaefer, who sarcastically expressed surprise at the news that his former informant might be involved in more check-related criminal activity, but also mentioned McLaren disappearance after Thatcher informed Schaefer about Kelsey McLeod also going missing shortly after being seen with Kimball's presence. The two realized that in addition of being a con artist and forger, Kimball might also be a serial killer. Thatcher and another FBI agent, Johnny Graskin, met to build a case around Kimball. Those exact whereabouts they didn't know where Kimball was. They were preparing the arrest warrant for many probation violations when they managed to talk to uh, Brennett Campbell, who told them that his brother had given him some guns, which he had been illegally possession. This was an additional charge in itself, and the FBI immediately put out a warrant out. From Lori McLeod, Grushing and Thrasher got Kimball's new cell phone number. The FBI traced the neighborhood to Riverside, California, where he had been living with his now girlfriend, McLeod. Had suspected him having there. They alerted the local police that they would be attempting to make their arrest. Kimball left in his pickup truck mid-afternoon, March 14th, followed by federal marshals in a unmarked vehicle. With Nickelback's Rockstar playing loudly on the stereo, Kimball sped up and fled, following closely by police. He called his girlfriend, who pleaded with him to turn himself in, but he was determined, telling her that he knew things the police would kill him to keep him from telling. He led them from south of Riverside down to Coachella Valley towards the Salton Sea, finally pulling off to the main road near the small farming town of Mecca, where he ran out of gas and in a field 260 miles from where the chase began. After briefly threatening suicide during a police call with Schaefer, he eventually surrendered in 3 hours after first fleeing. Now, Kimball was taken back to Colorado briefly for arraignment on the charges there. Excuse me. This is going to be one of those long ones. Then back to Montana to serve time for his being away from his halfway house several years earlier. He was also sentenced to an additional 2 years in prison. In May, he was briefly taken back to Colorado, where he pleaded guilty to weapons charges that were led to his arrest, saying he wanted to break the cycle that I'm in. He got in 10 months in prison, following 6 months in another halfway house to be served when his Montana sentencing was concluded. The sentences gave Thatcher and Grossing time they hoped they could use to build a murder case against Kimball for for Casey and Markham's disappearance. Kimball denied any knowledge when they interviewed him in Montana. Henson, Kimball's second wife, repeated her rape allegations and added that she suspected him of having one time tried to poison her. The former Montana cellmate of Kimber's, who after release worked for a meat business, for his meat business, recalled that one night the two were drinking. Kimball unpronouncedly asked if fake breasts were traceable. Upon being told that they were, Kendall seemed visibly upset and later asked the man if he would, as a favor for a friend, take something from a body. The man refused, and detectives were struck by similar to what Kimball had claimed Ensign told him. Prosecutors in Boulder were also prepared charges against Kimball for his more recent scams and any time left on the previous suspension sentences and probation. While Colorado law provides a quadrupling the sentences for crimes committed by habitual criminals like Kimball, they were still not sure they could put him in prison for the time they believed he deserved for the murders. They got their break when Lori McLeod, who had been uh, evicted from her condo where she and Kimball had lived after his arrest, began looking through his boxes of possession. And one, she found Casey's written schedule for the last week she had been working at Subway. She also began to suspect that the supposed signs and Casey was still alive. The necklace, the missing makeup, and the landlord's sightings had all been arranged by Kimball. McLeod went to the police with this evidence, and their searches turned up other evidence connecting Kimball to Casey's disappearance. The hat from her work uniform, her personal date book. Also found a receipt for food from a supermarket in northern Colorado town of Walden, and dated the day after Casey had been last seen. A weekend when Schaefer had recalled being unable to reach Kimball, who told him afterwards that he would be scouting some terrain for future hunting trips. Also in the boxes was documentation of Yahoo email account Kimball had set up and his uncle's name, and the laptop Emery had bought for Kimball during his crime spree. On it, they found many rape pornographic images. Similar material was on his desktop. Kimball had also kept a file of newspaper clippings of Dennis Ranner, the BTK killer, which we went over a long time ago, and then neighboring Kansas, who also tortured his victims. One of the photographs on the laptop that most disturbing to them depicted a young woman who was not in any distress, just smiling. They believed that it meant been another potential victim that they had not known about. Holly identified her as Emery and told the investigators he had not heard from her since shortly after Kimball's release, when he had told them both to get in touch with each other. During the interviews, was very evasive, as Gassing and Thatcher had expected. They too could not readily let on what they really knew. When pressed about Casey's McLeod, Kimball told him that one story that they had not heard before, that she had died of a drug overdose, maybe on some national forest land. In April 2007, Grousing went to the Rotalo National Forest near Walden to see whether the area would be a good place to hide a body. While buying a mat, he mentioned that he was an FBI investigating a possible murder. Rangers told him that a hunter had recently found a human skull that appeared to belong to a young woman. The DNA test confirmed that it was Casey McLeod's, with the proof that at least one of the missing people last known to have been seen with Kimball within Kimball's company was in fact dead. Grousing and Thatcher had some leverage with him. The prosecutors had determined that his more recent forgeries and financial crimes justified a 48-year sentence when the quadrupling for his habitual offender status was taken into account. They told Kimball that if he pleaded guilty to those charges, revealing the locations of the other three bodies, he would only face one count of second-degree murder. The sentence would run concurrently with the time for his fraud charges. If he declined, he would be facing separate charges for all the murders, which the death penalty was a possibility. Kimball accepted the deal after he signed and told all the present prepare for a trip to Utah, where he showed them to Leanne Emery's body, open side Moab. On the way back towards Denver, he revealed where he had buried his uncle Terry in Val Pass, but he was less certain of where Jennifer Macrum's body laid. After several locations he had identified turned up empty, he concluded that he had forgotten where he had put her. Investigators were doubtful, believing that he hold the location back for future negotiations. Since only two of the three remaining bodies had been found, there was no deal. Kimball caused some disrupting prior to October 2009 sentencing, when, though his lawyer uh, he's circulated what apparently to be in a FBI summary of interviews with some of the other people that he is associated with. That suggests that Ensign had gotten immunity for telling the FBI he and Kimball ran a rape porn business, and that McCobb, McLeod, and Embry had been killed at the behest of a drug dealers imprisoning at Inglewood, whose business they had cut into by smuggling drugs into the prisons on visitations. Good Lord. Cullen read a statement from Kimball after his cousin pleaded guilty on all four murders and sentenced to 70 years, blaming the FBI for pushing him into a criminal world more dangerous than anything he had previously encountered without any guidance or support. The FBI later determined that the summaries had been forged by Kimball during his confinement. Since Kimball's sentencing, prosecutors and investigators expressed to the media that their belief that the four murders he pleaded to were not the only ones that he had committed. Now, they actually said that he probably killed more than like 20 people. It's 4+, so they don't really know the max amount of how many that he actually killed. So that's the reason why for that. Boulder County DA Stan Garnett said that Kimball's report bragging to others that he had killed dozens, and that given his gift for falsehood, there had been even a chance of some of the truth that in his boasting. Blabber. It's hard to imagine we caught him on everything he did, agreed Catherine Booth, one of the assistant DA who prosecuted him, observing that his four victims were people on society's margins who had not been quickly missed, which most serial killers they usually do, homeless or prostitutes, male and female. That's what he said, just prostitutes. But because most killers, they believe that those people won't be missed. Casey McLeod's father's note that over the decade and a half from his first arrest to ultimately capture, there was a lot of time during which he was unaccounted for. Gossing further notes the speed and ease of which Kimball committed the murders he was serving time for suggested he had previous experience. The FBI strongly suspect Kimball and two other murders. In September 2010, it was reported that the Bureau had investigated him as a possible suspect in one of the murders and mutilations of Catherine Powell, a woman who lived a troubled life similar to those of Kimball's other female victims, found in Westminster in October 2004, where he lived in the area under FBI supervision. 3 months later, Kimball told a cousin that he had been proposed as a suspect in the Westminster murders in New Mexico, which were committed during the time period that he was living there in the Denver area. He denied the involvement. 5 years later, a former cellmate of Kimball's at Sterling Correctional Facility in northeastern Colorado told the FBI that Kimball and other inmates had solicited him to plan a helicopter escape and murder two people on the outside. In Kimball's case, a former business associate after the inmate's parole in 2017, he continued working with the FBI to get evidence against the two. In September, on the day the escape was to happen, Kimball and the other inmates waiting in the prison yard for the expected helicopter were instead arrested and charged with attempting escape and soliciting to commit murder. The later charges were eventually dropped after the local district attorney was herself indicted on drug charges. Oh, he got away with it because of the district attorney got indicted in drug charges. That's oh man, that's horrible. But Kimball pleaded guilty to attempting to escape in 2020, and the sentence to 4 years to be served concurrently and transferred to a maximum security prison in Colorado outside Canyon City, where once he had been placed on 24-hour lockdown. Now, the aftermath of all this, Lori McLeod had her marriage to Kimball annulled in 2008. At his sentencing, she said that she felt Kelsey had forgiven her and thus was willing to forgive her killer. Kimball was since remarried to a woman incarcerated in Kansas prison for child abuse. They have been never met physically. Theodore Payton, whose sexually abuse of a teenaged Kimball led to a suicide attempt that scarred his forehead. According to Coed, permanently changed him for the worse, died in January 2017. His body was found outside of Netherland cabin that he abused Kimber. The cause was found to be heart disease with a chronic condition listed in the contributing factors. He served 5 years of the 7 year sentence after Kimball and the other victims came forward, but escaped being required to register. As sex offender until late 2000s, and that is early in 2010. Kimball reportedly wrote a lengthy handwritten letter to the family to describe a great detail of how he previously the deaths of all 4 of his victims. He accounted the slightly difference from those that he had previously given, and the FBI received the copy. Kimball took responsibility for Emily's death, which he had previously attributed to someone else, saying he had shot her twice when he tried to escape, while he earlier simply claimed that he merely made it possible for someone else to kill Marcob in another Utah canyon. He was present at her death. Now he has prepared a fatal heroin hotshot for her. Kimball also again attribute Casey McLeod's death to drugs, saying that she had taken a combination of alcohol, methamphetamine, and opioids, and then overdosed in his presence near her body was found. He repeated his early confession to killing Terry Kimball. Cohen, who discussed the contents of the letter with the media, was encouraged by the letter, noting that although his cousin might not be telling the whole truth, he admitted to a greater role in the killings than previously. This is the Scott. He so desperately need mental health care, Cohen had told Westworld. Cohen believed Kimball had some of the sort religious awakening and was seeking redemption. And that is about it. Now, there's CBS News series 48 Hours outlined Kimball's case in an episode titled Hannibal Unmasked, originally aired in April 2010. NBC Dateline NBC aired telling of Kimball's story in September 21, 2018, with updates since the CBS version. ID channel series Evil Lives Here, season 5, episode 3, on Evil Uncovered, originally aired in January 13th, 2019. But that's about it on that. And that was Wow, that was a big one. But anyways, thank you all for listening. Thank you for all watching. If anytime you want to give us, I don't know, another person to look at, go ahead, send us all the stuff, and we'll take a look at it. Love you guys. Bye.